heart, expressing her sorrow, her memories, and the joy that had once filled her life. One afternoon, as the sun streamed through the window, painting the room in golden hues, Eloise was lost in her creation. The canvas before her was alive with swirling colors, a chaotic blend of blues and yellows. The strokes were bold, reflecting her tumultuous emotions. She felt liberated, as if each brushstroke was freeing her from the chains of loneliness. "Wow, Mrs. Hawthorne, that's beautiful," Lisa exclaimed as she entered the room. "Look at those colors. They're so vibrant." Eloise turned, her cheeks flushed with a mix of pride and embarrassment. "You really think so?" "Absolutely. You have a gift," Lisa said, her voice warm with sincerity. "What inspired you to paint this?" Eloise looked back at her work, contemplating. "It's a bit of everything, I suppose. Memories of my family, and the emptiness I feel now." She sighed, feeling the heaviness in her chest. "It's like I'm trying to capture the chaos of my life. Art is a powerful way to express those feelings," Lisa encouraged, stepping closer to admire the piece. "It's okay to show both the light and the dark. They're all part of your story." Eloise nodded, feeling a sense of understanding wash over her. "I've always believed that art should evoke emotion, but I never realized how much I needed to let mine out." "Then keep painting," Lisa suggested. "Let it flow. I'll be here to cheer you on every step of the way." Encouraged by Lisa's unwavering support, Eloise began to paint more frequently. Each day, she discovered new colors and emotions hidden within her. The act of creating became a balm for her heart, a way to cope with her feelings of abandonment and loss. Yet as she painted, she couldn't shake the thought of her family. The silence from her children, Alden and Beatrix, echoed in her mind. She longed for their presence, for a connection that felt severed, perhaps irrevocably. The fear of being forgotten lurked in the corners of her heart, taunting her with memories of happier days. One evening, as she worked on a new piece-A canvas depicting a family gathered around a table, laughter and warmth radiating from the colors, her thoughts drifted to Alden and Beatrix. "I wonder if they even think of me," she murmured to herself, the brush hovering over the canvas. Suddenly, the door creaked open and Lisa entered, a concerned look on her face. "Everything okay?" she asked. Eloise sighed, setting the brush down. "I was just thinking about my children. It's been so long since I've seen them. I don't know if they even care anymore." Lisa's expression softened. "They might care more than you realize. Sometimes people get caught up in their own lives and forget to reach out, but that doesn't mean they don't love you." Eloise looked up, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I miss them, Lisa. I miss the sound of their laughter, the way they would curl up next to me on the couch while I read to them. Now it feels like I'm just invisible." "You're not invisible," Lisa said firmly. "You're here, and you're creating something beautiful. Maybe your art can be a bridge to reconnect with them. You could show them what you've been working on." Eloise considered this, her heart racing at the thought. "Do you think they would care to see it?" "I think they would be proud of you. It might be just a thing to bring you all together again," Lisa encouraged, her eyes bright with hope. Eloise smiled, a flicker of determination igniting within her. "Maybe I will." She glanced at her canvas, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. "I'll paint something special, a piece I can share with them, something that speaks of my love and longing." "That's the spirit," Lisa exclaimed, clapping her hands. "I can't wait to see what you create. You have so much inside you that needs to be shared." Eloise nodded, feeling the weight of her loneliness lift just a little. With each brushstroke, she, heavy with the weight of her estrangement from Alden and Beatrix. "I do miss them, but what if they only see me as a source of money? What if they don't care about who I am anymore?" Lisa shook her head. "You can't control how they feel. All you can do is be true to yourself and share your journey. The right people will appreciate you for who you are." As Eloise pondered Lisa's words, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. Perhaps creating art could bridge the gap between her and her children. Maybe it was time to reclaim her identity not just as their mother, but as an artist with a voice worthy of being heard. As the day wore on, both Alden and Beatrix found themselves lost in their own thoughts, unaware of the profound journey their mother was embarking on. The divide between them seemed insurmountable, but the threads of fate were beginning to weave a new tapestry, one that held the promise of reconciliation and healing. Little did they know, the journey back to one another would be fraught with challenges, but it was a journey that had to begin somewhere, perhaps with a canvas, a brush, and the courage to face their shared past. Eloise looked out the hospital window, her heart heavy with a mix of anticipation and dread. The sun cast gentle rays across the room, illuminating the canvas before her a half-finished painting that had become both her refuge and her companion. She had been lost in her thoughts when she heard the soft tap of footsteps approaching. She turned her head slightly to see her children, Alden and Beatrix, standing hesitantly at the doorway. "Mom!" Alden's voice was low, almost hesitant, as if he were unsure how to approach her. The sight of his mother, frail and seated in a wheelchair, struck him with a wave of guilt. He had not seen her in years, and now, facing her brought back a flood of memories he had tried to bury. "Come in, dear," Eloise said, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She gestured to the two chairs across from her. "I was just working on something." Beatrix stepped forward, her arms crossed defensively over her chest. "What are you painting, Mom?" she asked, her tone more curious than inviting. The tension in the room felt thick as they exchanged glances, each of them grappling with the weight of their shared past. Eloise glanced down at the canvas. "It's a reflection of my life, I suppose. Each stroke tells a story." She paused, searching for the right words. "I wanted to capture the beauty and the pain." Alden shifted uncomfortably in his chair. We heard about the inheritance," he said, trying to steer the conversation towards safer ground. "We just wanted to see how you were doing." Eloise's expression darkened slightly. "Is that all you wanted? To check on your investment? Your mother?" Her words held an edge of bitterness that surprised even her. "No, that's not what I meant," Alden protested, his voice rising slightly with frustration. "I care about you, Mom. I just Dash. Just what? You just didn't have time for me before? Or was it that I was no longer convenient?" Eloise's voice trembled, a mix of anger and sorrow. "You both left me, and now that there's money involved, suddenly I matter again?" Beatrix, who had been silent, finally spoke up. "Mom, it's not like that. We both struggle with our choices. I've had my own battles, and Alden, well, he's just trying to make sense of everything." "Make sense of what?" "The fact that I'm here, alone, in a hospital bed, while you live your lives as if I never existed." Eloise felt a wave of emotions crash over her, a tide of resentment, pain, and a glimmer of hope that maybe this conversation could lead to understanding. "Mom, please," Alden said, his voice softening. "We can't change the past, but we can try to fix things now. I'm sorry for not being there." "Sorry doesn't cut it, Alden," Eloise replied, her voice steady but laced with hurt. "You can't just waltz in here and expect everything to." Brushstroke, her paintings became a window into her soul, each piece a testament to the love and pain she had experienced. And with each completed canvas, she felt a sense of renewal. She was no longer just a forgotten mother. She was an artist reclaiming her narrative. One evening, as Eloise finished a painting depicting a vibrant summer picnic, a thought struck her. "Lisa, what if I held an exhibition, a way to bring everyone together and show them my heart?" Lisa's eyes widened with excitement. "That's an incredible idea. You could invite Alden and Beatrix, and maybe even some family friends. It could be a beautiful way to reconnect." Eloise hesitated, anxiety creeping in. "But what if they don't come? What if it's a disaster?" "Eloise," Lisa said gently, "you can't control their actions, but you can control your message. This exhibition will be your gift to them, a chance to see you, to feel your love. Even if they don't show up, you'll have created something meaningful. With Lisa's encouragement, Eloise began planning the exhibition. She pored over her artwork, selecting pieces that told the story of her life, her joys, her heartaches, and the love she still held for her children. As the days passed, she felt a sense of purpose that had been absent for far too long. On the day of the exhibition, Eloise's heart raced with anticipation. The hospital's community room was transformed, adorned with her paintings that hung like portals to her past. Each piece was accompanied by a small card detailing the story behind it, inviting viewers to dive into her memories. As she stood by the entrance, she felt a mix of excitement and fear. What if Alden and Beatrix didn't come? What if no one cared? Just then, Lisa appeared by her side, a reassuring presence amidst the swirling doubts. "You've done an amazing job, Eloise," Lisa said, squeezing her hand. "No matter what happens, you should be proud of this moment." Eloise smiled, grateful for Lisa's unwavering support. "Thank you, Lisa. You've helped me find my way back to myself." As the guests began to arrive, Eloise's heart swelled with a mixture of hope and anxiety. Friends, hospital staff, and a few family acquaintances mingled, admiring her artwork and sharing their thoughts. But her gaze was fixed on the door, waiting for the familiar faces of her children. Hours passed, and just when she thought despair would take hold, the door swung open. Alden and Beatrix stepped inside, their expressions a blend of surprise and awe as they took in the vibrant colors that filled the room. Eloise's heart raced as she took a step forward, her voice trembling with emotion. "Welcome," she said softly, her eyes welling with tears. "I'm so glad you're here." Alden glanced around, his gaze landing on a painting that depicted a family picnic. "Mom, this is incredible," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I had no idea you were still painting." Beatrix stepped closer, her eyes scanning the canvases that told their family history. "You've captured so much of our childhood," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't realize how much I missed this." Eloise felt a swell of hope ignite within her. "I wanted to show you both how much you mean to me. I've missed you every day, and I hope this helps us reconnect." As they stood together, surrounded by the memories Eloise had painted, a sense of unity began to form. The walls of silence and misunderstanding that had separated them for so long started to crumble. In that moment, Eloise realized that her art had not just expressed her pain, it had also created a bridge to her children. "Mom," Alden said, his voice steady now, "I'm sorry for everything. I've let ambition blind me to what really matters." Beatrix nodded, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "Me too. I've been so focused on my own struggles that I forgot about you." Eloise felt a rush of love and forgiveness wash over her. "We have so much to talk about. Let's not let time slip away again." As the evening unfolded, with laughter and shared stories echoing through the room, Eloise felt a warmth envelop her heart. It was a feeling she hadn't experienced in years. In that moment, she understood that family wasn't just about blood. It was about connection, love, and the willingness to heal together. With Lisa by her side, Eloise found not only her voice but also a new path forward. Her art had become a catalyst for change, a reminder that even in the depths of loneliness, hope could be rekindled through love and creativity. And as she looked at her children, she knew that the journey of reconnecting had just begun. As sunbeams broke through the hospital window, casting a soft golden hue across the sterile room where Eloise Hawthorne sat in her wheelchair, the faint sound of distant laughter echoed down the corridor, a stark reminder of the life she once knew, a life filled with warmth, love, and the chaotic joy of family gatherings. Today, however, she felt a mix of anticipation and dread as she awaited the arrival of her children, Alden and Beatrix. Alden had always been the responsible one, a high-flying executive with an air of authority about him. Beatrix, on the other hand, was a creative spirit, an artist trapped in her own world of canvases and paint, often at odds with the harsh realities of life. The thought of their visit stirred a whirlpool of emotions within Eloise. Would they come with open hearts or with the weight of old grievances? As the clock ticked, she could feel her heart racing. Just then, the door creaked open and Alden stepped in, his tailored suit contrasting sharply with the hospital's drab surroundings. He looked around, his expression a mixture of discomfort and concern. "Mom," he said, hesitating for a moment before approaching her. "How are you feeling today?" Eloise forced a smile, trying to mask the loneliness that had been her constant companion since her fall. "I'm managing, Alden, just enjoying the view." She gestured toward the window where the branches swayed gently in the breeze. "Right," he nodded, but the tension in his voice betrayed his unease. "I didn't know how to start this conversation." Before Eloise could respond, Beatrix strode in, her presence filling the room with a different kind of energy. She wore a paint-splattered apron, as if she had just stepped away from her chaotic atelier. Her hair was thrown up in a messy bun, and her eyes sparkled with defiance. "Look who decided to show up," Beatrix said, crossing her arms. "Isn't this a lovely family reunion?" "Beatrix," Alden warned, shooting her a look that could curdle milk. "Can we not do this right now? Mom's been through enough." Eloise watched the exchange, her heart sinking. "Can we just sit together for a moment?" she suggested, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'd like to talk about everything." They both fell silent, the weight of unspoken words hanging heavily in the air. Alden finally moved closer, taking a seat on the edge of Eloise's bed, while Beatrix leaned against the wall, her arms still crossed defensively. "Mom," Alden began, his voice trembling slightly, "I've been thinking a lot about everything that's happened. I guess I owe you an apology. I never should have let things get this far." A flicker of surprise crossed Eloise's face. "You think this is easy for me? To see you two here after all this time?" Her voice cracked, revealing the fragility of her emotions. "I've missed you both terribly, but it feels like you've turned your backs on me." Beatrix's expression softened, but she quickly masked it with bravado. "You think it's all on us? You never reached out either, Mom. You just let us drift away." "Drift away?" Eloise echoed, her heart aching. "You have no idea what it was like to be alone, to feel like you didn't care. I thought you were living your best lives without me." Alden's brow furrowed, his guilt palpable. "I thought, you've been through. We're all hurting, and we can't let someone like Frank ruin this chance." Eloise looked at her children, a swell of gratitude filling her heart. "I appreciate that truly. It's been lonely and confusing, and I've carried so much hurt. But I see you both trying, and that means everything to me." "Let's not let him drive a wedge between us," Alden said, determination in his voice. "We need to be stronger than his manipulations." Beatrix took a deep breath, her fingers brushing against the edge of Eloise's painting. "I felt so disconnected from both of you, like I was just an outsider in my own family. But I want to change that. I want us to create new memories, ones that can help us heal." Eloise smiled, her heart swelling with love and hope. "That's all I've ever wanted, to reconnect, to share my life with you again. I may be an old woman, but I still have dreams and stories to tell." "Then let's start right now," Alden suggested, looking around the room as if searching for inspiration. "What if we talk about the past? The good times before everything fell apart?" Eloise's expression softened. "Yes, let's do that. I have so many stories to share, stories of laughter, of love, and of lessons learned. Let's create a new chapter together." As they settled into a comfortable circle around her painting, the tension that had filled the room began to dissipate. The shadows of their past began to lift, replaced by the warmth of shared memories and the promise of a brighter future. They talked, laughed, and even cried, weaving a tapestry of connection that would ultimately shield them from the darkness that Frank represented. And in that moment, Eloise felt a spark of hope ignite within her. Perhaps they could overcome the challenges ahead, not just as siblings, but as a family bound by love, understanding, and a shared commitment to healing. The bonds of blood ran deep, and together, They would find a way to navigate the complexities of their lives one brushstroke at a time. The hospital room was bathed in a soft, golden light as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting warm shadows across the walls. Eloise Hawthorne sat in her wheelchair, her fingers deftly moving across the canvas that had become her refuge in recent weeks. Each brushstroke was a splash of color that spoke of her pain, her joy, and the memories of a life once filled with laughter. Nearby, Lisa, the nurse who had become her confidant, leaned against the doorframe, observing the older woman with admiration. "Eloise, I can't get over how beautiful that is," Lisa said, her voice laced with genuine appreciation. "You've captured so much emotion." Eloise glanced up, her eyes sparkling with a mix of pride and vulnerability. "Thank you, dear. It's been therapeutic, really. Each color represents a piece of my heart. Some are heavy, while others are light." She paused, contemplating a particularly vibrant stroke of red. "But sometimes I fear it may all be too much." Lisa stepped into the room, her hands clasped in front of her. "You're expressing yourself in a way that many people only dream of doing. You're creating a legacy, Eloise. Have you thought about sharing your work with others? An exhibition, perhaps?" Eloise's brow furrowed at the thought. "An exhibition? I don't know, Lisa. What if no one cares? What if they see my past, my failures, instead of the art?" "They will see you," Lisa replied softly, kneeling beside Eloise's wheelchair. "They'll see your journey, your strength. You face so much, and this is your way of reclaiming your story. Don't you want to share it?" Eloise looked at her canvas, then back to Lisa, a flicker of determination igniting within her. "Maybe you're right. Maybe it's time for me to step out of the shadows and into the light." Meanwhile, in a sleek, glass-walled office downtown, Alden paced restlessly, his phone pressed to his ear. "I don't care how much it costs, Vanessa. I need to be at the," Alden added. "And I was so focused on my career that I never took the time to check on you. I thought success would make you proud, but I see now that it only drove us further apart." Eloise's heart swelled with a mix of sorrow and pride. "I never wanted you to feel that way. I thought if I stayed in the background, you would shine brighter. But I realize now how wrong I was." As they spoke, the walls that had long separated them began to crack, revealing the fragile threads of their shared pain. Each confession, each admission, drew them closer, like the colors on Eloise's canvas blending harmoniously. In the following days, the dynamic shifted. Eloise poured her heart into her art, while Alden and Beatrix, inspired by her resilience, began to confront their own insecurities. They shared their struggles, their fears, and the burdens they had carried alone for far too long. One afternoon, as Eloise worked on a new piece, she felt a presence beside her. She turned to see Beatrix standing there, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Can I paint with you?" Beatrix asked, her voice tentative. Eloise smiled, her heart swelling with pride. "Of course, sweetheart. I would love that." As Beatrix picked up a brush and dipped it into the paint, she hesitated. "What if I'm not good enough?" Eloise shook her head. "It's not about being good enough. It's about expressing yourself. Just let it flow." As they painted together, a silence enveloped them, filled only with the sound of brushes on canvas and the unspoken bond of healing. In that moment, they were no longer mother and daughter, but two souls connected through the act of creation. Meanwhile, Alden found himself reflecting on his own life choices. He often visited Eloise, sitting quietly beside her as she painted, absorbed in his thoughts. One evening, he finally found the courage to speak. "Mom," he began, his voice barely above a whisper, "I've been thinking about everything, about us. I want to change, to be a better son. I want to be part of your life again." Eloise looked at him, her eyes filled with tears of hope. "It's never too late, Alden. We can rebuild what was lost, but it will take time and honesty." "I want that," he replied, determination lacing his words. I want to know you, to understand everything you went through. I want to be here for you. As the days turned into weeks, the bonds between them grew stronger. Eloise's friendship with Lisa blossomed, too. The nurse became a regular presence in the hospital, offering support not just to Eloise, but to her children as well. One afternoon, Lisa leaned over the canvas that Eloise was working on, her eyes sparkling with excitement. You should really think about an exhibition, you know. Your work is incredible and it deserves to be seen. Eloise hesitated, her insecurities bubbling to the surface once again. The day of Eloise's art exhibition arrived with a blend of excitement and trepidation that hung in the air like the soft brushstrokes on her canvases. The gallery was a quaint yet elegant space, filled with warm light that danced off the walls, illuminating the vibrant colors of her paintings. Each piece was a window into her soul, capturing the essence of her experiences, her struggles, and the complexity of family ties that had shaped her life. Eloise, seated in her wheelchair, gazed around the room, her heart racing as she absorbed the atmosphere. "Do you think they'll come?" Eloise asked Lisa, her voice tinged with vulnerability. The nurse had become more than a caretaker. She was a friend and confidant who had encouraged Eloise to rediscover her passion for painting. "Of course they will," Lisa replied, her eyes sparkling with encouragement. "This is your moment, Eloise. You have so much to share with the world." Eloise smiled faintly, though doubt lingered in her mind. She had spent countless hours pouring her emotions into each canvas, but the fear of rejection loomed large. What if her children saw her work and felt nothing? What if they chose to remain distant even now? As the clock ticked closer to the exhibition's opening, Eloise's anxiety grew. She looked down at her hands, which trembled slightly, and remembered the moments of loneliness and neglect that had brought her to this point. The clamor of voices in the gallery began to rise as guests arrived, filling the space with a warmth that contrasted sharply with her apprehension. "Is that them?" Eloise asked, her heart skipping a beat as she spotted Alden and Beatrix entering the gallery. They looked somewhat out of place in their designer outfits, but their expressions were a mixture of curiosity and concern. "They're here," Lisa confirmed, smiling. "Just be yourself. You've already made strides in reconnecting. This is just another step." Eloise took a deep breath and pushed herself forward, her wheelchair gliding toward her children. The moment felt surreal, as if she were in a dream where the past and present collided. As they reached her, Alden's expression shifted from apprehension to genuine warmth. "Mom," he said, his voice low and earnest, "this place looks amazing." Beatrix stepped closer, her eyes scanning the paintings. "I didn't realize how much you had created," she murmured, her tone softer than it had been in their previous encounters. Eloise felt a flutter of pride amidst the nerves. "Thank you," she replied, her voice steadying. "I wanted to share my journey with you both." She gestured to a large canvas that dominated one wall, colors swirling in chaos yet harmonizing in a beautiful disarray. "This one is called Ties That Bind. It's about our family, my love for you both, despite everything." Alden studied the painting, his brow furrowing as he absorbed the imagery. "It's powerful, Mom," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I can see the struggle in it." Beatrix stepped closer, her arms crossing defensively at first. "It's raw," she added, her voice quieter. "I can feel the pain." Eloise's heart swelled with a mixture of joy and sadness. "I painted it during a time when I felt utterly alone," she confessed. "But it was also a time of reflection and acceptance. I wanted to convey that pain can lead to beauty." The three stood in silence, allowing the weight of the moment to settle. Suddenly, a flurry of guests surrounded them, eager to admire the artwork, breaking the intimate bubble they had created. Eloise watched as people moved from painting to painting, their expressions shifting from curiosity to introspection. Amid the crowd, Alden and Beatrix exchanged glances, a silent understanding passing between them. They were no longer just siblings bound by a shared history. They were witnesses to their mother's journey, each painting revealing another layer of her life. As the evening unfolded, Eloise felt a growing sense of pride. She overheard snippets of conversations, guests discussing the emotions her paintings evoked. "This one reminds me of my relationship with my mother," said a young woman, pointing to a piece titled Fleeting Moments. Alden leaned closer to Eloise, breaking her reverie. "You have a gift, Mom," he whispered, admiration shining in his eyes. "I never realized how talented you were." "Neither did I," Beatrix added, her voice softer now, almost wistful. "It's incredible to see you like this." Eloise's heart swelled with warmth. "Thank you, both of you. This means more to me than you know." The night wore on, and the atmosphere transformed into one of celebration. Laughter and spirited conversations filled the air, and Eloise felt a sense of belonging she hadn't experienced in years. Just then, a familiar face approached their father, an unexpected presence that sent a ripple through the gathering. Eloise's heart raced as she took in his expression, which was a mix of surprise and regret. "Alden Beatrix," he said, his voice tentative. "I didn't know you were here. Why are you here?" Alden responded, his tone laced with defensiveness. I heard about the exhibition," their father stammered, glancing at Eloise. "I wanted to see what she has done." Eloise felt a rush of conflicting emotions. Anger, sadness, and relief swirled within her. Years of resentment threatened to surface, but she took a deep breath, focusing instead on the progress she had made. "Look at my work," she said steadily, gesturing to her paintings. "Each piece tells a story, a part of my life that you both have been a part of. I've poured my heart into these, and perhaps it's time we all acknowledge the past, even if it's painful." Her father nodded, his gaze dropping as he took in the art around him. I didn't realize how much you had to say, Eloise. I've been a fool." "Yes, you have," Beatrix interjected, her voice rising slightly. "We've all suffered because of your choices." Alden placed a hand on Beatrix's shoulder, grounding her. "This isn't the time or place," he cautioned, though his eyes reflected the unresolved tension. Eloise's heart ached at the sight of her children grappling with their emotions, but she also felt a sense of hope. "Maybe we can talk about it later," she suggested gently. "Right now, let's focus on the art and what it represents." Alden and Beatrix exchanged glances, and slowly, the anger began to dissipate. "You're right, Mom," Alden conceded. "Let's celebrate your work tonight." As the evening progressed, Eloise felt a renewed sense of purpose. She watched her children engage with the guests, their initial hesitations melting away as they spoke about her paintings. The connection they were forging with each other and with her felt monumental, like a tapestry being woven anew. As the night drew to a close, Eloise stood before her largest canvas, the one that had become a centerpiece of the exhibition. It was titled Rebirth, a vibrant explosion of colors that depicted not just her struggles, but also her resilience. "Mom," Beatrix said softly, stepping beside her. "This one, it's breathtaking." Eloise turned to her daughter, a smile breaking through the remnants of her earlier anxieties. "It represents hope, Beatrix. No matter how lost we feel, there is always a path to healing." Alden joined them, placing a hand on each of their shoulders. "You've shown us that, Mom. You've shown us what it means to be a family." In that moment, surrounded by the echoes of laughter and the beauty of her creations, Eloise felt a warmth she had thought lost forever. It wasn't just about the art. It was about the connections being rekindled, the understanding being fostered, and the love that was beginning to fill the spaces that had once been so empty. As the last guest trickled out, Eloise sat back in her wheelchair, a sense of calm washing over her. The night had been a turning point, a celebration of not just her artistry, but of the family she longed to reconnect with. "Thank you for coming," she whispered to her children, her voice thick with emotion. "This was more than I could have hoped for." Alden and Beatrix exchanged glances, their expressions softening. "We're just getting started, Mom," Alden replied, determination shining in his eyes. "We're going to make this work." Together, Beatrix added, a smile tugging at her lips. And in that moment, Eloise understood that the true art of family was not just in the moments shared, but in the willingness to embrace the past, heal the wounds, and paint a future filled with love. As day turned to dusk in the hospital room, Eloise sat in her wheelchair, looking out of the window at the fading light. The colors of the sunset melted into one another, a stunning display that momentarily distracted her from the weight of the world. She had spent the last few weeks painting her memories and emotions onto canvases, each stroke a cathartic release. The thought of her children, Alden and Beatrix, filled her with a mixture of hope and trepidation. They had come a long way since that first awkward visit, and she was eager to see how they had grown not just as individuals, but as siblings. Just then, the door creaked open, and Alden stepped in, his face a mix of determination and concern. Beatrix followed closely behind, her arms crossed defensively. The air was thick with unspoken words. Eloise looked up, her heart fluttering. "I'm glad you both came," she said softly, her voice trembling slightly. "We wouldn't miss it for the world," Alden replied, forcing a smile. "We wanted to see how you're doing." Beatrix said nothing, her gaze fixated on the floor. "I've been working on something," Eloise said, gesturing to the easel beside her. "I hope you'll both take a look." She turned to the canvas, revealing a vibrant piece that captured the essence of family, a tangled web of colors representing joy, sorrow, and everything in between. "It's beautiful, Mom," Alden said, genuinely moved. "You really captured the dash." Before he could finish, a nurse entered, carrying a clipboard. "Eloise Hawthorne, it's time for your routine DNA test. Just a quick swab, and we'll be able to analyze it for the upcoming inheritance discussions." Eloise nodded, her stomach knotting. She had mixed feelings about the inheritance. Was it worth the emotional toll it had taken on her family? As the nurse conducted the test, she felt a wave of nostalgia wash over her, recalling the times when family meant more than money. "Mom, are you okay?" Beatrix asked, breaking through her reverie. "I'm just thinking," Eloise replied, mustering a smile. There was a time when the essence of family was more important than any fortune. Once the nurse left, the atmosphere shifted. Eloise took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. "I need to tell you both something important. It's about the DNA test." "What is it, Mom?" Alden asked, concern etched across his face. Eloise hesitated, her heart racing. "I found out that I have a rare genetic condition that might affect one of you," she said, her voice faltering. "It's hereditary and I dash." "What do you mean? Affect one of us?" Beatrix interjected, her earlier defensiveness replaced by anxiety. "It's something that could lead to serious health issues," Eloise continued, her eyes darting between her children. "I didn't want to burden you with it before, but now that we're here, it feels like the right time." Alden's face paled. "What kind of condition?" "It's called hereditary angioedema," she explained. "It causes spontaneous episodes of swelling that can be quite severe. I've managed it, but I don't know how it could manifest in either of you." "Mom, why didn't you tell us this sooner?" Beatrix asked, her voice trembling. "I didn't want you to worry, especially with everything else going on," Eloise replied, her heart heavy with regret. "But it's important for you to know, especially if you want to have children of your own someday." A silence enveloped the room, thick and suffocating. Alden was the first to speak, his voice low and contemplative. "We've been so focused on the inheritance, on what we stand to gain, and we've forgotten what really matters." "Exactly," Beatrix added, her tone softening. "We need to focus on you, Mom. You've been through enough." Eloise looked at her children, feeling a flicker of hope. Maybe this is a chance for us to reconnect, to really be a family again. "Right," Alden said, determination rising in his chest. "What do we need to do?" "We should get tested ourselves," Beatrix suggested. "If we can understand what we're dealing with, we can plan accordingly. But more importantly, we need to be here for you." Eloise's heart swelled. "You both mean that?" "Of course," Alden said, his voice steady. "We've been so caught up in our own lives that we forgot to check on you. It's time we put family first." "Let's make a plan," Beatrix said, her eyes brightening. "We can research the condition, find support groups, and learn how to manage this together. We're stronger together, right?" Eloise nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "You have no idea how much this means to me. I've missed you both so much." As they sat together, the air slowly transformed from one of tension to one of unity. They began to talk about their lives, their struggles, and the moments they had missed. Alden shared his feelings of inadequacy, and Beatrix opened up about her desire for recognition as an artist. "Mom, I think you're the strongest person I know," Alden said, emotion lacing his words. "You face so much pain, yet you still find a way to create beauty. It inspires me." "I can't believe we let everything come between us," Beatrix admitted, a hint of regret in her voice. "We've been so absorbed in our own lives and ambitions." Eloise smiled, feeling the warmth of their words. "We all have our battles, but true wealth isn't in money. It's in love and connection." As the evening wore on, Eloise could see the transformation in her children. They were no longer just her estranged kids seeking a fortune. They were her allies, ready to face the challenges ahead together. "Let's make a toast," she suggested, raising an imaginary glass. "To family, love, and new beginnings." "To family," Alden echoed, a smile breaking across his face. "To love," Beatrix added, her eyes sparkling with hope. As they shared a moment of laughter, Eloise felt a renewed sense of purpose. They were no longer bound by the chains of past grievances or the weight of their family's wealth. They were united by something far stronger: the bonds of love, understanding, and the promise of a future together. In the days that followed, the three of them worked together to explore Eloise's condition. They attended support meetings, researched treatment options, and took proactive steps to ensure that Eloise's health would be a priority. The more they learned, the closer they became, the shared knowledge and experience knitting them tightly together. Eloise felt lighter, both physically and emotionally. The tension that had once filled her heart was now replaced by a sense of belonging. During one of their evening discussions, Alden looked at his sister. "You know, this experience has made me realize how much I've taken for granted. I want to be there for you as you pursue your art. It's time I support you the way you deserve." "Thank you, Alden," Beatrix said, her voice filled with sincerity. "It means a lot to me. I've always felt like I was fighting alone." "Not anymore," he replied, a newfound resolve in his voice. "We're in this together." As the days turned into weeks, the dynamic of their family shifted. Eloise became the center of their world, not because of the inheritance, but because of the love they shared. They found joy in the smallest moments, whether it was painting together or simply reminiscing about the past. And when the day finally came for the results of their DNA tests, they gathered in Eloise's hospital room, a mix of anxiety and anticipation swirling in the air. "Whatever happens, we'll face it together," Alden reassured them, squeezing Eloise's hand. When the nurse entered with the results, Eloise felt a wave of uncertainty wash over her. But as she looked at her children, she knew that the true inheritance they had gained was the bond they had forged in the process. "Here are the results," the nurse said, handing over the envelope. Eloise opened it slowly, her heart pounding. As she read the information, a sense of relief washed over her. "It looks like we're all healthy," she announced, her voice trembling with joy. Alden and Beatrix erupted in cheers, embracing one another. "We did it," Alden exclaimed, laughter bubbling from his lips. "Mom, this is amazing," Beatrix said, tears of happiness streaming down her face. Eloise felt a profound sense of gratitude. In that moment, she realized that the real wealth was not in the inheritance, but in the relationships they had rebuilt. They had transformed from a fractured family into a united front, ready to face the future with love and resilience. As they celebrated, Eloise looked around at her children, feeling a warmth envelop her heart. This was what family meant: support, love, and the courage to confront whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they could weather any storm, and in that knowledge, Eloise found a peace she hadn't felt in years. The legacy of love they were creating was worth far more than any fortune.